Hello, hello. I think everything's working. I haven't been here for a week, so it's hard for me to tell, but hopefully you're all doing well. Welcome to the stream. Been a bit. Got some cool stuff to talk about because I did get to mess with the new Mavic 3 Pro. Yeah, had a really good time at NAB. I also looked at the Inspire 3 quite a bit, and I gotta say, I'm pretty dang impressed. But if this is your first time here, welcome to the stream. The whole reason I do this stream as often as I can, which unfortunately isn't every week right now because of my work schedule, is to have the question and answer back and forth thing, because I answer every comment, but after that I'll never see it again. So if you have more in-depth questions or just a question period, this is the place to ask so that we can have a whole conversation and chat about it. Yeah, so hopefully everybody's doing well. I saw Michael Walsh was here. I'll answer his questions in just a sec. Timmy J, One Vision Aerial Drone Shots, D Aerial H4, Alaska Filmer, Mark H, USA Drone Flyer, Shutter Speed Ireland, Lynn, Bond Photo, Bear Necessities. I thought that said something else for a second there. Robert and James, good to have you all here. Did I get some love from DJI? Well, I mean, I got to see the Inspire 3 and stuff. I had great conversations with all the guys there. I'm going to sneeze, so hold on. Whew, yeah. So it, in that sense, like, it was great. NAB was fantastic. My favorite part of NAB was actually getting to just meet a lot of other people that I've talked to for years online now, and actually get to meet them in person and, hang out a little bit, which was spectacular. So I got to hang out with the original Dobo and Billy Kyle and Paul Feinberg. I don't know if he'll be on here later tonight. And Sidney Johnson, Chris Brockhurst, Gerald Undone. Who else? A ton of people. So it was really, really fun and very insightful too. Watching the Inspire 3 in person and looking at it in person, coming from somebody who's flown the Inspire 2 a lot, I can't wait to get my hands on one because the thing is going to be just incredibly good and I'm going to put together a video about it. But yeah, it's going to be an incredibly powerful tool for people who do a lot of drone work. We'll start there. So, first off though, Michael Walsh, I don't know if he's still here. He was very early on in the chat, way before the stream started. So he had a couple of questions, and we'll talk about the Mavic 3 because he leans into that. But here, this is the Mavic. The new Mavic 3 Pro. Also, I don't know why I look so desaturated. I just spent a week in the desert. You would think that my skin would look more tan than this, but I guess it's about right. The Mavic 3 Pro. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. So the new camera is really good overall. I think it's gonna. I mean, I was kind of like looking at one. It's a little cheaper than the Mavic 3 because obviously they paid for their R&D costs now, and the camera module is quite a bit larger, but it still works fine. It just the new camera. I wish it had full D-Log, but the D-Log M I've started playing with, and it's okay. It's more like a D-Cine-like than a D-Log, but it's kind of halfway in between. So it's going to be useful. It's going to be much more useful. The cameras do look dramatically different color-wise. Like, it's going to take a bit of work. And the reason I haven't released my LUTs yet is because of that. I realized, well, we got a new one coming. I might as well make sure it works on both. The problem is I'm gonna have to make a LUT specifically for that 70mm camera, but I do really like that 70mm camera. It's really nice. It's gonna enable us to have a lot of different shots. So I was thinking about it. I was like, basically, like, this is the coolest thing ever because instead of making a Phantom 5 with interchangeable lenses, aka like a baby Inspire, they made a drone that gives us interchangeable lenses, but you don't ever have to land it to change the lenses, which is it's pretty cool. So I'm excited about it. I have one on order. I'm getting the Cine model because there are a couple of things the 70mm camera, like, you only get if you do the Cine model. The ProRes is one, but also the color depth, the 10-bit 422, not 420. There's a difference there, a fair amount of difference. So that's, and then part of the reason because I do a ton of work with mine, and the Cine version makes more sense for the type of work I do. Now, so Michael Walsh asked about the European classifications though, because of the weight. Because the new Mavic 3 is over 900 grams, it is classified as a C2 drone, which carries with it much more restrictions on how close to people you can fly and what you have to do to fly over people, or not over people, but near people. Like, it's so the original Mavic and the Mavic 3 Classic they're great for European Union users because that falls in the C1 label, which is less restrictive. For the Mavic 3 Pro, I'm sorry, now you're in the C2 label. So yeah, I am going to be selling my Mavic 3 Standard if anybody wants it. And, but yeah, so that's unfortunate. It's going to be labeled as a C2 for Europeans in the European Union running under the European Union drone rules. You're classified as a C2, which is unfortunate because then you're supposed to be 50 meters, 150 feet away from people, and I'm not an expert on that, so I'm not going to go deep into it, but I know that at least you're much more restricted as far as how close to people and stuff you can fly as opposed to the regular Mavic 3. Other than that, I really do like the new Mavic 3. I really like that third lens just because it's going to give us so many more options just after you purchase the... Yeah, Robert. It's more expensive, though. That's for sure. But anyway, so just after it just gives you more options on how you want to tell a story and the types of shots you want to compose. The 70 millimeter is a really great focal length for that. In the little bit that I got to fly one and play with one, I mean, flying wise, it's great. It's as stable or maybe even a little bit better than the Mavic 3. I don't know that it's better. I think it's just better firmware, which the Mavic 3 all had updates to, so it's probably the same now. But, Alaska Filmer, yeah, right. I did call that one pretty dang close. And, I mean, by the time it's all said and done, like, if you're going to buy lenses and more batteries and anything else like that, like, you're going to be in the $25,000 range, which is nuts. But, whatever. And we'll talk about that in a second. So, Mark H, the Cine model sounds like the way to go. Yeah, I mean, for the utmost quality, for the best quality, the Cine model definitely is going to be, if you're doing it professionally, then that's going to be where you should go. Paul Slauberg? I'm so sorry. I don't know how to say your last name, Paul. Anyway, I use, I do Facebook Marketplace for local stuff sometimes, but I'm very careful there. Otherwise, I use this a website called Gear Source, right? Gear Focus. And I've had very, very good luck with them. Paul Batchelor, what's my recommendation for a drone to learn beginner flight skills with? The Mini 2, the Mini 2 SE, or the Mini 3? That's what I would learn with. I would start with there. Tentos. Yeah. So, hey, Max Air, loading fish mode. I saw you guys there. JSK Enterprise. And I think I've got everybody. I think I'm all caught up. That's awesome. Sweet. Actually caught up on the chat. That's amazing. Let's see. Have the original Mavic 3. Buy a new one. So both have C1, C2 labels are the same. Nick's High Tech. Are you in Europe, Nick? Because if you are, and you can drop like a little more detail about, I just know that like C2 is, you have to be a lot farther away from people and buildings, right? It's 50 meters for people and buildings. And so I did just skim it through while I was flying back to Alaska yesterday, and I was, I was too tired to really be studying anything at that point, and I probably should have just left it alone. But I'm glad they left the batteries the same. I'm glad they left everything else the same, because honestly, the Mavic 3, like, it is a fantastic drone. It flies amazingly well, and it's just super solid. So, yeah, I'm very excited to get mine. I have no idea where I'm going to be when it finally ships. So it may be a bit till I can get like a not a hands-on review, but like more in-depth videos. But I was able to go out, I was able to fly one, and I was able to get the footage and kind of mess around with it and test it. Although the firmware was very much pre-release firmware. It had bugs, which they always do. So I didn't get to test out everything on it at that point, but I got to test out enough to go, okay, this thing is solid, and I really do like that new camera, new lens. It's really, really solid. So, hey, Dynadrone. Let's see. Mavic 3 for the Mavic 3 Pro. Like to have a 3x zoom, slightly better 7x zoom. So, Brett. The C2 label has no effect here in the U.S. That is strictly a European Union drone rule. Nothing to do with us, and apparently nothing to do with Britain either. As I was talking with Philip Bloom, and he and I were discussing it, and he's in Great Britain, or the UK, whatever you want to say. And, yeah, it's fine. Nick's High Tech. Yeah, the C1 label is really small and lightweight, right? It's the Mini 3. Wait, doesn't the Mavic Classic, does that fall in it? Because that's under 250 grams, right? Man, anyway, I'm sorry. I'm not Far from people, cars, houses, not over people. Yeah, Nick. Okay, so I did get that part right. I'm glad to see that I got that part right. At least. If you want to know like more in depth about European Union rules, you can watch Geeks Vaughn's channel. I know he goes into depth about a lot of those. But that to me is the biggest downside, is the Mavic 3 fell under the C2 label, which as far as I remember, it has a C1 label, which gives you more flexibility about where you can fly and stuff, how close to people and buildings you can fly. But the C2 label, it's 50 meters. It's a lot more restrictive. So honestly, the Mavic 3 Pro is not going to be a good drone for most people in the European Union to get because of those restrictions. So anyway, we're not allowed to use Mach 3 times shutter speed. Ireland. I don't understand what Mach 3. Anyway. Oh, the Mini is C0. The C1 is under 900 grams. Right. Yeah. So that's, yeah. Tentos. I'm not sure what big lawsuit you're referring to. Maybe like the National Parks lawsuit or something else. Let me know. Anyway, okay. Inspire 3. I do want to cover that. Oh, so the Mavic 3, Mavic 3 Pro. The great thing is I put out my like long-term review, and I still stand by everything I said about it in the long-term review. It's probably the classic if you're not maybe making a decent amount of money with the Mavic 3 Pro. The Mavic 3 Pro, if you're in the US and you were like, it's a tool you use to make money, maybe. I still think the classic is probably the best bang for buck for most people, unless you're doing TV shows and really large commercial products. But even in that case, like, I don't know, I didn't realize, man, I didn't clean up my desk at all. So messy, gross. Who let this guy on air like this? Yeah, so that. Okay, and then and because of the larger gimbal size, because of the heavier weight, obviously we're going to lose 3 minutes of flight time, something like that. So that's like, what did I figure that was? It's like a little, I don't know, it's 8%, 7% flight time reduction, something like that. Sounds like a lot. You still get a good amount of flight time. Sky Curtain. Those are very heavily restricted zones. You'd have to be at a very big distance because they usually put a large TFR over those spots. I did have a friend who did that in a Learjet with cameras mounted on the front and the back, like the Cine cameras. And yeah, that sounded very interesting. Okay, Shutter Speed Ireland. Not allowed to use the Mavic 3 in town in the UK. Oh, gotcha. Yeah, gotcha. Shutter Speed, thanks for clarifying that. Okay, so, the Inspire 3. A lot of people have kind of, at least from the interactions I've had, a lot of people have been like, holy crap, that's so expensive. And it is. I mean, if you're, pushing $20,000 for a completed setup, like if you don't own any DL lenses and you're buying lenses and the whole Inspire system and then, an extra terabyte SSD, and maybe like the CNG RAW license and stuff like that, it seems expensive. But that tool is aimed at people who that is what they make their living at. Like, that's their tool of trade. So it's definitely not aimed at hobbyists or people who are doing like, I mean, honestly, even people like me, except for maybe the TV shows and stuff that I've worked on, most everything I do can be done with the Mavic 3. But the Inspire 2 is really aimed at people who's like, they're in a very high professional level of drone work. So I do plan on at least trying to get my hands on one, which I think I probably will. And yeah, we'll see. It's a fantastic drone. It's amazing. The image quality is exceptional. The camera is rivaling a lot of cinema cameras for dynamic range, which is crazy. I mean, and the resolution is great. The low light performance is really good. I was there talking with a couple of the DJI guys that I was showing them. I showed them my Mavic 3 filming the Aurora video, which if you haven't seen it, you can find it on the channel. Great video, I think. I was just kind of like, why could you release the Inspire 3 earlier and I could have done that? Like, that would have been great. But, you know, unfortunately, no. So let's see. Shutter speed. Shoot SpaceX launch. Did that 3 weeks ago. Returned it today. Have 3 on MHM photography. That's I don't blame you. I think if you just bought a Mavic 3 and the Mavic 3 Pro, you know it's in your budget and you can afford it, I would return the Mavic 3 and get the Pro. Like, you know. The Classic is cheaper, so I wouldn't worry about that. But if you just bought a Mavic 3 and you're looking, the Pro came out, it's essentially the same price, but you get that other camera, I would do that. And the improved tele camera is like, it's a, what is it, half stop brighter and a little bit better. So Inspire 3 can go 68. Is it really 68? I think it's 58, Mark. It's that I was disappointed in the top speed of the Inspire. Robert, what's the price tag on the basic new Mavic 3 Pro? I think it's $2,200, like $2,199 in that range. I think you're at 3 something with the like Fly More combo, and then it's like 4,800 for the Cine combo. Let me see. I'll pull it up here real fast. Okay, yeah, so $2,200 for the Mavic 3 with the DJI RC, $3,000 for the Fly More combo with the DJI RC, $3,800 if you want the DJI RC Pro Fly More combo, and then $4,800 if you want the Cine Premium combo, which I'm going to get, and I'm like, well, I already have the DJI RC. I already have an RC Pro. I really don't, but of course they don't sell just the Cine version, and I have like 10 batteries already too. It's not like I need more batteries, but... oh well, whatever. I guess I'll sell my standard version with an RC Pro now or something. I don't know. Anyway, it's a great drone, and for aspiring filmmakers, for people who make a living doing stuff with drones, it's going to be great. Inspections, I think, is going to be great too, because that 70mm allows you to really punch in, still get a really clean image. It's going to be really nice, photos and stuff. It's roving. Did I get in with the DJI peeps? Well, I mean, like, I got in their booth and I talked to lots of them. I actually got to talk to some of the engineers who designed and built the Mavic 3, which was fun because I got to tell them, you know, how I took it up to the north shore of Alaska and flew it. You know, I've flown it at 55 below zero and 35 mile an hour winds at 55 below zero. And they were very interested to hear how it handled that stuff and what I did to, like, you know, make sure it was okay. And so that was fun. And then I gave them, you know, my feedback. I doubt they'll listen. I was like, please give us some sort of like D-Cine, like D-Log, whatever on the tele camera. It would make it so much more useful if we could actually color grade that to a point. And I made a LUT for when I released the LUT pack that I'm making for the Mavic 3 that kind of helps, but there's just only so much you can do with that camera. And yeah, anyway. Inspires for the people who tell the FAA how to make the rules. Yeah, you're kind of not wrong. Let's see. Biggest difference between the Classic and the original Mavic 3? Not super interested. Clint, honestly, like, if you're not interested in the telephoto stuff, the Classic. That's the only difference, is you get the other cameras. And if you get the Cine model, then you get, you know, the ProRes SSD built in. But if you want, like, the D-Log image quality out of that 4/3 sensor camera, get the Classic. And that's why I said that in my video. I'm like, really? I think the Classic is the drone for most people. It's a great, great drone. Really good performance. And I would do that. So, and that is literally the only difference, is you lose the you don't have the telephoto camera or the either one of the telephoto cameras of the Pro now. And of course, also you don't get the SSD, but most people don't need the SSD. So yeah. H4 services, not much difference between 58 and 68 when you hit a tree. Not much difference when you shear a camera off the bottom of an Inspire 2 either, because you hit a ski jump. Don't ask me how I know that. No, but I mean, I was hoping for 68 or 70. I was really hoping for that because I do a fair amount where I'm like, I need to track cars on a highway or something like that. And so the difference between 50 and 60 tracking cars on highways is pretty big. At 50, you're struggling to get 10 seconds of tracked footage with, somebody on set driving an SUV or whatever, if they're driving full highway speed. But at 60, you're almost keeping up if they're 65. So it does make a big difference. So yeah, anyway. That's James, fresh year. Think of selling your Skydio 2 Plus. You bought it for tracking ability of solo filming. Moto, but the controller sucks. Thinking of Mavic 3 Pro Cine as the tracking has improved. Well, that's quite a jump in price. And the tracking on the Mavic 3 Pro is very good. It is still not on the level of Skydio quite. It's close. The big difference, though, is Skydio's obstacle avoidance is still the best by a fair amount. It really is really good. Now, here's another thing, though, James, and for everybody else on the Mavic 3 or Mavic 3 Pro, is you active track in the main camera, the 24mm camera, but it will also active track on the 70mm camera, which I'm very excited about because that gives you shot options. So yeah, I'm very, very excited about that. Yeah, Paul, I agree. I wish they would just sell, and they probably will eventually, just a Mavic 3 with no Mavic 3 Pro with no controllers and stuff, because I really need a Cine model for what I do, but yeah, that would be a great, because lots of people already have controllers. Oh, MHM used to the same thing. I agree. I'm kind of curious to see when spare parts hit the market in 6 months. Could you go buy the Mavic 3 Pro gimbal, stick it on a Mavic 3, and it would work? As near as I can tell, that's about the only difference. No idea on the firmware stuff, but it'd be kind of cool if you could. I gotta think with that extra camera though that something is different in the way those systems connect to the main board. There has to be more of a difference than just the gimbal, I would think. Anyway. And Brendan, when am I coming to capture the Southern Lights? Oh, I really would like to. Nick, yeah, and that's what I've had a few people comment that, and that's always been my response is it likely has a new chipset, not only just to be able to handle the input of the third camera, but also a lot of the other stuff that is included in that new system would take a different chip set. So anyway. No, because media, I was in Nevada, southern Nevada too, so I completely missed it. I was really bummed because it looked incredible. Hawkwind DroneWorks. Anybody use the Mavic 3 with goggles, handy controller yet? Oh, hand controller yet? I haven't tried it yet because I've been traveling a lot the last few days to get home. But from what I've seen online, it works, and it works pretty well. I think FlightPath put out a good video about it today. So yeah, I haven't tried it, but I really do want to try it. I'm curious to see what flying with goggles would be like, just because I'm so used to flying with FPV drones, and your level of precision goes way, way up when you're really just all you're seeing is what you're seeing from the drone. Now, legally in the U.S., that means you have to have a spotter, but I think I could pull off some more, intense drone moves if I was flying with goggles. So I might try it out here in the next few days. We'll see. I have to build a custom FPV drone for a project I'm working on. That's going to take up my time. for the moment. I do have a video coming about creative ways to use drones other than fly drones. You'll see me walking around the desert a little bit, and I think I'll have it ready tomorrow at some point. So anyway, just, you know, I've been wanting to do more tutorial videos on like helping people hopefully find better ways of doing things and learn other ways of doing things, think outside the box. And so, you know, beyond just using it like a handheld gimbal where you're walking along with it, there's some good ways to use a drone in there. So that should be coming tomorrow, I think. H4 services, I don't think you can put the same kind of camera back on a drone without sending it to DJI paired in the firmware. H4, well, see, now like with the Mavic 2 Pro and the Mavic 2 Zoom, you could just swap the gimbal out, because I did it, and it would become a Zoom, or it would become a Pro. But yeah, the Mavic 3 is a whole different beast from that. The Mavic 3 and Mavic 3 Pro are a completely different beast. So, Don Hawkins, no, ProRes is compatible with a lot of things. ProRes is just a wrapper codec. It's a compression format for video. ProRes is a high bandwidth, less compressed video format that gives more flexibility when somebody's going to color grade, edit, and work with the video a lot in post. Just like MP4, MP5, right? MP4, like H.264, H.265, MP4.mov are all wrappers for compression codec. And so when you're using it in your computer, it has to like unpack it, decompress the footage, and work with it. ProRes is it's a fairly processor easy. It's easy on processors to work with ProRes for the most part, and it works on PC, it works on Mac. And most major editing stations will be able to work with ProRes natively. But yeah, it's a great codec. It's just, if you don't do things where you're like sending your footage off to be colored by a colorist or be worked with by, you know, really intensive work, and matched up to other cameras that they were shooting with, then it's not really necessary. Most of the time, I like just shooting for my stuff. I don't shoot in ProRes. I just shoot in H.264 or H.265, because that's great. But ProRes is great. Yeah. Man, everybody's asking me if I was able to get in with DJI, and the honest answer is like, I don't know. We had great conversations. Well, you know, we'll see. But they gave me no indication one way or another. But we did have very good. I will say that all the DJI people I met and talked to, we had great conversations about, you know, the stuff that I was using drones for, how I was working with drones, things I would like to see improved or changed or whatever. You know, I bet none of that will probably ever be heard. But it was great conversations. So anyway, Alaska Filmer, yeah, I really want to just mess with the Inspire 3. That drone is incredibly powerful. Sky Curtain, possibly. There's some interesting things that would go into play with that could be challenging. But if anybody could, probably DJI would be the ones that could. So, thanks, Mark. That was basically me going, crap, I need to post a video. And I had that one kind of ready to go, so I put it out there. Alaska Filmer, thank you. Actually, yeah, what drones do you fly right now, Alaska Filmer? Curious. Is it surprising they're not offering the Mavic 3 Pro for sale as a drone only without a controller, Brad? No. Not really, because like the Mavic 3 went away. The Mavic 3 Pro is replaced it. I don't know. I mean, that might be something they're going to offer down the road, but that's kind of what they've done is like, hey, you can buy this drone with everything, and then in 6 months we'll let you buy just the drone. But yeah. Nick, yeah, that's right. Donald Miller, were you able to get a deal? Oh, we already talked about that. H.264 and H.265 H4. well, look, put it this way. On YouTube stuff, social media stuff, it really doesn't matter. If you're getting into a little more critical stuff, then I feel like H.265 does better, but you definitely need a more powerful computer to work with it. Yeah, so. Clint? I don't think so, Clint. The RC Pro is great. And like if you're ever going to run HDMI feed out for something, it's great. But the RC, the DJI RC is like, I use it a ton. And it's every bit as good. It's just not quite as bright. And but the battery lasts longer. So yeah. And it doesn't go as far. That is the biggest downside of the DJI RC over the RC Pro is there is a significant change in the range. And it's partly because you have internal antennas versus external antennas, and then partly because they did the O3 Plus in the RC Pro as opposed to the O3 on the RC. So, but yeah. Going on Alaska cruise, any recommendations for Sony lens, whale watching, Zodiac tour, white pass terrain? Oh, nice, white pass terrain, helicopter tour. Yes, do it if you can. 600 millimeter? No, I would get. I would look at. Well, I mean that 200 to 600 is pretty nice. It's also gigantic and heavy as crap. Honestly, for something like that, I would look at the Tamron 20 to 200. Or the 70 to 300 even, or no, 20 to 200 or the 50 to 400. That's the lens I would look at. Yeah. Reads the EULA. Got your part 107. Luckily, you already got work with a large company. Awesome. Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. Thank you. That makes my day. I ran into a couple of people at NMB that told me they had been able to transition into full-time work, filmmaking, not just like drone work, but like filmmaking work. And every time I hear that, it kind of blows me away. The fact that, you're getting enough value out of the videos I put on YouTube to be able to do that. And, so it really means a lot to me. That's one of the reasons I started this channel was to help people do that. Some people don't want to. That's fine. I just want to help you level up, improve your skills to where you can if you want to. Yeah. Views that fade. So yes, I do eventually. I'm not sure when exactly. Right now I'm getting the Mavic 3 Pro and then the Cine version. We'll see after that. But I think eventually I will get an Inspire 3. It's kind of mind-boggling to think about spending that much on a drone, but like I make most of my living with drones. So, it's a tool. It's like mechanics make their livings with their tools. They spend a lot on tools, and yeah, so we'll see. I'm mostly super excited. I mean, I'm very excited to work with one and fly it a bit because I've flown the Inspire 2 a fair amount. But for the most part, I'm very excited about the Mavic 3 Pro because of that extra lens. Is going to be really great. And it just like if I'm working by myself, the Mavic 3 is great. If you're working with a team, a crew, then the Inspire 3 is going to be better because you can do more with it. But yeah. E.T. Donald. Oh, that'd be interesting. I hope so. That'd be cool. Larry, for a first drone, I mean, if you have the budget, then get a Mavic 3 Classic. If you don't have the budget, though, because it is an expensive drone, then I would get the Mini 3 or the Mini 3 Pro for your first drone, because then you're probably going to crash a little bit here and there. Mini 3 is, one, cheap to repair. It crashes fairly well. It doesn't break that easily. And you're not throwing a ton of money away if like you fly it into a lake somewhere where you can't get it back. So yeah. Donald Miller, Mavic 3 with water resistance. Yeah, although I will say thanks, Robert. Yeah, can you post a link actually, Robert? I don't have the link handy with me. Anyway. Water resistance. Oh, Donald Miller. I will say I've flown mine in some pretty terrible weather, and it's done fine. So I think they do coat it with something, the internals, because mine's handled quite a bit, honestly. So, yeah. H4 services? No. No. No, 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 no. That is too much. I mean, you're talking... It's hard for me to fathom spending that much money on a drone, a camera, and stuff, and realizing like it's essentially a brand new car too. When I'm driving around a 330,000 mile, 330,000 mile car. My 4Runner's getting up there, but I like it, so I'm gonna stick with it. Also, I still don't feel like my voice has recovered from being in the dry air of the desert. Like, it's so dry. Thank you, Brian. Let me see if I can find that podcast link. So I sat down with a guy who does some really cool stuff here, podcast-wise and stuff. And Mark H., thank you very much. I appreciate that. Sheesh. That's, yeah, thank you. There we go. Let me see if I can find the podcast link. Anyway, so if you want to, like, get kind of... Oh, here we go. This is... Oh, my gosh. Okay. This one... Yeah, this one here. I'm getting a link. There we go. Okay, so if you're interested in checking out the podcast where I sat down with somebody for about an hour and a half, I think, that's it there. You could probably find the podcast on other platforms too. I don't know of any, or I don't know which ones. Anyway, but sat down, talked about like how I got into YouTube, videography, drone stuff, and everything else. So if you want to kind of backdoor glimpse into my life, then there you go. Thanks, Jim's Drones. Welcome. Mark H., I cannot believe that. Really, really, thank you very much. Let's see. Views at Fade. Do I plan on buying the Inspire 3? Oh, we already talked about that, so we're good there. Got about 20 more minutes on the chat, or on the live stream, so let me know if you've got, ask questions. What else was I going to say? Yeah. So that's where I will be making a video about my first impressions of the Inspire 3, because I got to, spend a fair amount of time with it at the NAB booth. They basically, it looks like they fixed pretty much everything that everybody complained about with the Inspire 2. But when everybody looks at the price and you go, dear Lord, $20,000 for a drone with batteries and lenses and stuff, by the time it's all said and done, is insane. And it is, like, that's expensive. But again, like, it is aimed at a market of people who that is what they do for their living. That's it. So if you don't make your living, and a pretty decent living, at drones, then the Inspire 2 really isn't a good tool for you. Honestly, the Mavic 3 Classic, the Mavic 3 Pro, those are the better tools for you. And that's where it's hard for me to go, like, yes, I would like to buy one to work with. But my holdup is if I can justify that cost based on how much business I have coming in and how much use I would get for it, or get out, how much I would use it versus the Mavic 3, which, I mean, I flew tons of stuff last year with the Mavic 3, and so yeah. Hey, Phantom Flight 101. At what range does the RC signal start to break up? Max range you fly around 3,000 feet. The RC Pro is loading fish mode. So I think you'll be fine, probably. You'll be fine with the RC, the DJI RC, not the Pro version, at that range. The only time you would notice a little bit of difference with the RC versus the RC Pro inside of 3,000 feet would be as if you're flying behind a lot of trees, or there's enough obstacles between you and the RC and the drone for brief periods of time, because you're not supposed to fly beyond visual line of sight. Then you might notice more there. So, but yeah, I've used the RC and flown out to 2,500, 3,000 feet, no problem. Which is, I can fly a little further than that and still see the drone if I keep my eyes on it, but that's getting pretty far. Period. So, hey Lambo, Dynadrone, $5. Thank you. I appreciate that, man. Thank you very much, you guys. Let's see. Mark H. Inspire 3 has 2 controllers. Actually, Mark, the Inspire 3 comes with 1 controller, but you can get 2 controllers, or the Bright monitor with the hand controllers from the Ronin, or the Master Wheels, and have a second operator for that. And that is where the Inspire is fantastic, is you can have somebody who's focused on flying the drone and somebody who's focused on moving the camera, and then you get much better, much more precision, much more creative shots, because you're not trying to not crash while also keeping the camera on somebody. So, yeah. Nick, yes, that's right. If you don't have the workbook to where it's gonna like pay itself off within three jobs or 4 jobs at least, like if you don't have, you get it paid for the first couple jobs, and then the next jobs are going to make you money, then that is kind of a good gauge of like, do I need this or not? So yeah. Lambo, yeah, it has good range. It's just not as good as the Pro. And that's where, like, I think the DJI RC is great for most everything, personally. Tyler, I think it's probably going to be a bit before they release the SDK for the Mavic 3 line. Like 6 months maybe to a year, somewhere in there is my guess, if I had to guess. Yeah. Mavic 3 Pro, do we believe the obstacle avoidance is improved over the Mavic 3? Gort, as far as I know, it's the same. Now, they might have updated the software, which you probably got an update on if you own a Mavic 3 now, that maybe improved it a bit, but there's no massive difference that I know of between the Mavic 3 and the Mavic 3 Pro in that regard, as far as obstacle avoidance goes. Donald Miller, also true. I also have kids that are going to want to go to college or do stuff with their lives at some point. Someday, I'll probably need to retire, which means I need to be put money aside to do that too. And I do need to put money aside to like replace a car if one breaks down, because my car is getting up there in age. And honestly, this is where it kind of did break my mind a little bit. I was like, okay, so you buy the Inspire, you buy another controller, you buy the lenses, you buy the, Cinema D&G upgrade, you buy another 1 terabyte SSD, maybe a few more batteries, all that stuff. All said and done, you're like at $26,000. I have looked at airplanes that I would like to buy for about that same price. A real airplane that I can fly in and go places. So if it was like a toss-up between the two, at this point right now, I would probably go toward the airplane. Yeah, that's probably what I would do. Yeah, anyway. D-Log color mode. Would like to see you cover that. Views at fade. I do plan to talk about that. The D-Log M is not as good as D-Log, but it definitely is a big improvement over nothing at all. So I'm glad they put it on that second camera. I wish they would put it on the third, the telephoto camera, but yeah. And there are some caveats to that too. Is like the Mavic 3 Pro shoots a 10-bit D-Log M, but on that second camera, maybe on the first camera, I have to look at my notes. You are getting 10-bit 420, not 10-bit 422, which is really what you want, 422, if you're going to do heavy color grading, because that gives you much more color depth to be able to work with. It's super complex, and probably I just point you to a Gerald Undone video to understand 420 versus 422. But the 10-bit makes a big difference. The 422 makes a massive difference on color grading. So, yeah. So, to get that 422 on the main camera and on the, or maybe it's not the main camera, I think it's just the secondary camera, the 70mm camera, to get that 422, you have to get the Cine version and ProRes. So, yeah. Lambo, might be part of your problem right there. Mainly real estate and pricing. You feel you're underpricing yourself. If I were to drone fix and video virtual tour inside the house, what would be a ballpark price you'd charge, Paul? Oh man, that is so hard to say. The markets where you are, the markets around the U.S. period. I mean, just markets are so dramatically different from one location to another location. It's like, and honestly, I don't do that much real estate, so I would not be able to point you in a good direction. I think Original Adobo made it's a paid course with Remote Pilot Institute that you can take that really does a lot of that stuff, but I'm not positive. So, Nick's High Tech. Yeah, and I think you're right. I think they made some tweaks under the hood that they didn't really tell people about, because I've noticed that it got dramatically better in the last couple of firmware versions. Just the way it responds, the way it interacts, the way it active tracks is much better than it was earlier on, for sure. So, see Mayalski. Hopefully I said that right. The Cine version over the Mavic 3 Pro worth the cost over the normal Mavic 3 Pro. Mayalski, I think if you make a good amount of money or income with the Mavic 3 Pro, then yes, the Cine version is worth it. If you don't make a good amount of money, like if you can't pay it off within 2 to 3 jobs, then no, it's probably not. I think the regular Mavic 3, really the regular Mavic 3 Pro or the Mavic 3 Classic even, is really where it's at for most people. Even people who are doing real estate or stuff like that, I think that's really where that's the sweet spot. The Cine, it's a great drone. I mean, that's what I fly most of the time when I'm working for clients and stuff, but also, like, I'm handing all that footage off to somebody who's going to color grade it. They're going to match it up to really high-end cinema cameras, or I mean, so that's where it's worth it for me, because it allows me to work with those clients more. Beyond that, like, I use a standard version for a lot of stuff just because, well, it's cheaper. It's less expensive if I crash it, or, something happens. It's not as sad. Anyway. Hey, KK Race Gamer. Yeah, KK Race Gamer. Ugh. Where do I go for my next drone video adventure in Alaska? I don't know. I have a lot of work coming up in May, and I may not be able to do much outside of my work. And so and the stuff I'm working on is I can't share because of the client. They've asked me not. I mean, I can't. Anyway, that's here there. So I'm hoping to go out maybe this week. But it still looks very, very wintry up here. Like, snow is everywhere still. So it's probably going to be the end of May before stuff really starts to look green and look good again. So, yeah. But I definitely want to get out and do something quick soon. Shutter speed Ireland. No, not necessarily. That's just there is that issue in the Mavic 3 sometimes. Yeah, and I've noticed it too. Even when your ISO is fairly low, like 100 or 400 base. So this is a deal though. Shutter speed. If you are shooting in normal color profile mode on the 24mm, the main camera, it puts in a certain amount of sharpening and noise reduction. If you switch and shoot in the D-Log mode, on the 24mm camera only, it removes all sharpening and noise reduction because they're assuming that you are working with that footage in such a way that you're going to want to match it up to other cameras. So they take all that off, and then you can do the noise reduction in post, if that makes sense. Tell me if that makes sense. And thank you very much for the super chat. I really, really appreciate that. Anyway, so that is one thing I noticed. Now, with the 70mm and the 166mm cameras, there's always some sort of post-processing going on in the camera, so you always have some noise reduction, you always have some sharpening. You can't turn it off. I wish they would let us turn it off, but they don't. So, yes, Donald Miller, that's correct. The 3-minute flight time down is because of the weight increase. Dirt road drones. Yeah, he does, doesn't he? He talks about that in a recent video. That's right, I forgot. Awesome, H4 Services. You're welcome, Myalski. Hopefully I'm saying that right. I'm supposed to love Mavic 3 Pro. Don't think you upgrade the Mavic 3 is worth it unless you really need 3x zoom. Headley, yeah, I agree. If you have a Mavic 3, like unless you just bought it and you're still within the return window, then be happy with the Mavic 3. You still have a really great drone. Do the update, recent update, but yeah, still really great drone. Paul, yeah, you might be able to ask for more, bump up a little bit, or bump your price, and then see if there's a way you can add value that doesn't add a lot more time to you. That for sure. You will always price some jobs, and it will always be too much for some people, and they'll turn you down. I've done that too, and it just happens. But you don't want to underprice yourself to the point where everybody says yes. That means you are pricing yourself way too low. If you're pricing yourself and everybody's saying no, then you're probably priced a little too high. But you should have some people who are saying no to your pricing because they say it's too expensive. That's my philosophy anyway. Headley, don't worry. You'll be able to go back and watch the whole thing. That's fine by me. All right, Mark. Have a good night, man. Thanks for being here. And thank you again for the super chat. I really appreciate it. I'm on. Have some hyperlapse waypoints saved for 2 clients. Can't sell your Mavic 3 for another 3 months. That's awesome. I think that's the best. That's the best reasoning I've heard so far. Yeah, you're right. You can't. You need to stick with it until you get that job completed. Paul Feinberg, what's up, dude? Let's see. Yeah. What time is it? I have 3 more minutes on the stream, and then I have to run because I have something I got to go to. So if you have questions, this is the time to ask them. Yeah. Headley, you got DJI, got an invisible competitor we can't see from business model point. So investment in developing Mavic 3 Pro. Yeah, I'm not sure, Headley. It is kind of surprising. I don't understand it either. But it's a brilliant. I mean, it's a brilliant drone. It's great the way they've gone about it. They've given us an interchangeable lens drone without having to actually change the lenses, which is awesome. You can keep flying and you can get 2 different focal lengths, 3 different focal lengths, all from one drone in the same flight instead of having to land and switch and then go back up. It's great. KK Race Gamer. Yeah, that's a bit like the chicken and the egg. Which came first, the chicken or the egg? The answer is yes. And that's the hard part. When you're first starting out, it's like you have to do and work on everything to get all of your skills up as much as you possibly can. So it is a lot of work. The best thing I can tell you is, because nothing replaces just time doing something for building a skill set, is go out, fly a lot, take lots of photos and lots of video, and then go home and edit those photos and those videos. You don't have to post them anywhere or do anything with them, but work with them, because that will teach you a lot about what you did right and what you did wrong and you want to do differently next time. So, and then also watch high quality, work from people you respect, because that helps to develop your taste for what you, and a bar that you should be able to attain. That makes sense. How many minutes I got? Okay, probably just enough time to say this, but I watched a Netflix show called Hiro Dreams of Sushi. It's Jiro. He owns this little 12-seat sushi restaurant that has 2 or 3 Michelin stars in Tokyo. It's crazy. He's booked out for years, and it's nuts. But one of the things he said in there that struck me a lot was, he said to know what good food is, you have to eat good food, or you'll never train your palate to understand the difference between crappy food and good food. And it's true. So what I took from that is, if I want to perform at a really high level at something, I have to consume other people's work that are in that same space that is at the pinnacle, the highest level possible, because that is going to train me to know what is good and what is not good. If you're just looking at people, around you and around your area there, they may not be really very good at it, and you may think you're better than them, and you might be. But compared to people who are working, in the movie space or something like that, that's a whole different ball game. Or I even compare myself. I'll watch the aerials from helicopters and look at what they're doing and go, can I reproduce something like that with the drone? That's really important. You want to develop your palate at a very high level so that you know what's good and what's not. And then you also just need to go out and develop the basic skills. So do lots of it and work at it. And then what I say is find 4 to 5 projects that you would do for free just because you need to build a portfolio, and then do them for free and do them on your terms. And that's a whole nother ball of wax I don't have time to get into because it's now 5 o'clock and I really got to go. But I did see a couple more questions, so I'll try and lightning round through those real fast. Let's see. Headley, yeah, that's a concern. Paul, that's it. Literally every person I met at NAB goes, NAB says, you're taller than I thought you were. I'm I say I'm 6'4" in a lot of my videos. Anyway, so yeah. Anyway. You'll still be able to fly it. It's just you'll be limited on what you can fly, where you can fly it. Or you can add a third-party remote ID module to it, I think. Maybe. I'm not really sure, to be honest. Love the classic. Think you could hold out Mavic Pro 4. Yeah, that's a good idea, Robert. I think you're good on the classic there. You're putting out some great videos, too. I really like them. Thanks, Paul. MHM, they didn't refund you the DJI Care refresh. That is something you definitely should contact them about, because they should. I think they should refund you that money. Anyway, but yeah, definitely contact them. See if you can get it back. All right, I think I caught up on everybody. Thank you all for being here. Sorry I missed last week. There was just no possible way with what I was doing. And honestly, the next couple of weeks might be kind of sketchy too, that I can stream. So we'll see. But, yeah, thanks for being here. Thanks for being part of the channel, the community. Appreciate it a lot. For those of you that gave super chats and stuff and are members, thank you very much. I'll try and get some more content out for members here soon. And, yeah, till then. I'll see you guys soon in the next video. Cheers, everybody.
Ah.